I'm Michelle. I'm the audit compliance coordinator. I gave you my card for the College of Graduate Studies. So my office is actually in the Faculty Center where the Starbucks is.
Yeah.
I'm right across the hall. So if you ever need to come see me, get coffee and then go see me. But this is a dissertation formatting workshop. Yeah, you can go past that. So this is traditional formatting and manuscript formatting. If you have any questions about which one you should be using, your faculty advisor or your chair would be the one to ask.
Yeah, have you thought about that? The manuscript is are you writing manuscripts, or like it's like a chapter becomes like a submission to a journal?
Yes, I think that's what we are aiming for.
Okay, so you're already aware of that. Okay. So we're gonna look at the. That's not a mic.
That's okay. Yeah, I thought it was too. It's deceiving because it's blue. I'm like, hey, hyperlink. This is just some of the stuff we're going to go over and stuff that you can find also on our website. Do you know where the College of Graduate Studies website is? Have you been there?
I think so, yeah.
It's really good because there's a checklist there. So
Okay.
for my portion of what's required to get you to your degree is on here. It's an actual checklist, so you can look at all the forms you need to turn in. It gives deadlines, like how many weeks before and all that kind of stuff is on there as well.
So you go. This is the homepage for
Okay.
current students, doctoral students. Have you seen this page?
No.
Okay, yes, so this is a good page to keep in mind. You go to current students and then doctoral students, and then is the, everything you need to know should be available here.
Okay, thank you.
I think it's under forms. And then, yeah, doctoral. See, it has the pathways to the doctorate checklist.
There you go. Sweet.
It looks like a lot, but keep in mind, the ones that say like as needed right here, those are not required. Obviously, if you change your committee member, if you have exceptions, if you take time off your program. So whenever you graduate, it's a packet of all of your stuff, your academic stuff, as well as your progress and all that, and it's a complete file that goes over to registrar's office to be validated. So anything that's, like I said, leave of absence, you won't need revalidation because you've only been in it for 5 years, but the rest of that stuff, it tells you 4 weeks prior to graduation and all those things. And again, if you have any questions on anything specific, let me know. And most of these forms, if you just send it to me, I can route it for electronic signature, so you don't have to carry it around. Because some of those forms have like 4 or 5 signatures required. You don't have to go around and find 4 or 5 people. You can just send it to me and I'll route it.
Okay, that's great.
Yeah. So these are the actual, are you graduating summer or fall? Or do you know yet?
I think one more year, summer, but I'm gonna try spring, so we'll see.
Okay.
So this is for this year, right?
Yeah, this is for this year, so those dates change.
Yeah.
Again, you can look up those dates on the website. They're gonna be posted there. Not really applicable to you yet. Kind of went over those. Those are just as needed forms.
And this is master students, so you don't have to worry about that.
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, so this is, these are the pages in your dissertation,
Okay.
I guess, yes.
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead, Michelle, sorry.
No, that's okay.
I'm just mixing it up to make it interesting.
Yeah, that's cool. So you can see like the dedication, acknowledgements, some of those are optional. The rest of these have a specific format, and also on the College of Graduate Studies website is a link to those specific templates so that
Okay.
you can actually pull it up and start there so that you can, like if your footer and header, all those things are already set.
Ready. Okay.
Yeah.
So for doctoral students, there, you see that says templates there?
Yes.
Templates. Traditional manuscripts, full dissertation, CNET.
I was like, it was almost there. Like,
Okay.
did it peek of it?
It might take a minute to open.
It's kind of a large file.
Yes, so this is the template.
Oh, that's great.
And you'll see that like dedication, acknowledgements, table of contents, these are all the sections that were on the PowerPoint.
Okay.
So everything's all set up and you just have to, you plug in and then even like, yeah, there's all sorts of stuff.
And the content, it'll tell you a little bit of what's supposed to go there, kind of thing, like the abstract is supposed to be around 350 words, or, it'll tell you, see, it's optional, follows the abstract.
Oh yeah, here's the abstract. Yeah,
Yeah.
cool.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's a good place to start, because a lot of students, for some reason, piecemeal it, like they just open a blank Word document and start, and then they find this and they try to, and it doesn't quite plug in as well as if you just start here. It's so much easier. Yeah. So general formatting guides, your program has a handbook and College Graduate Studies has a handbook. So this is like the general formatting guidelines, 1-inch margins on all pages, preliminary pages you need 12-point Times New Roman font, no special fonts. Check with your program about this one, because some of your research may have specific species names and stuff,
Yeah.
so that one may not apply to you. Page titles are always in all caps, and then it tells you there's templates available. And so, when you finally submit your work to us, actually I'll go over some of that too, but it comes in, and once you submit it to us, that doesn't mean it's just automatically sent for publishing. There's a lot more that has to happen. So my office takes a look at it, and they only check formatting. They don't check content. That's your committee helps you there. But as far as formatting, so like for example, where it says Doctor of Philosophy in Marine Biology, if the N was in all caps, then they send you a little note, must change this. We do not change anything. We just send you back some recommendations on things to change formatting wise, and then you make the changes.
And this is all online or it's printed?
It's all done through Proquest.
Yeah, so it's you submit through an online interface,
Okay.
and when you submit a PDF
Okay.
file. Yeah, so you write in Word, or you write however you want, and then at the end of the day, you create a PDF,
Okay.
and then you submit that. No problem.
But also what I was going to tell you is, once you submit it to me, if you want to change something, even content or whatever, just email me and say, hey, up until you get an email saying it's been submitted for publishing, it's not. So you can still change things even after you've submitted it to me.
Okay.
All right, welcome.
Hi.
Are you here for the thesis and dissertation formatting?
Yes.
What are you?
What program?
Yeah, what
I'm
program?
in the doctoral program with the counseling department, so counselor education.
Okay, and your name?
Abram Rodriguez.
Okay, nice to meet you.
Yeah, welcome. We're Luce is here. She's working on a dissertation too.
Oh.
So we were going through. We got through a few slides. We started talking about. We went over that there's the grad school has a website and
Okay.
web pages for doctoral students.
Oh, cool.
Have you visited that?
I'm Yeah, I have.
Okay,
I'm
so
not too familiar with it. but-
So I
Do you
guess,
just wanna show them the checklist
yeah,
real quick? That might be-
yeah, so I'll show
Sorry.
you, like, and then, like, where are you at with the program with your dissertation?
I
Have you
am a-
started it, or about to finish it?
Yeah, well, no, I just took my comps, so I needed to take comps to be able to propose. But I had, a couple weeks ago, I had like a topic switch, and so I had like 25 pages written. So I'm not completely starting from scratch, but yeah, I'm about to start
So,
from scratch.
so both of you are in the beginning phases
Yeah.
of your dissertation, and a lot of this, so just so you know, a lot of this is pertinent, it's like formatting, how to prepare your work, but also it's how to submit it, so you won't need to worry about submitting it until when you're done, so,
Mhm.
I don't know that, like, a lot of this information is gonna be like, you're not gonna use it for a while.
Okay.
So just to show you, to catch you up, this is the College of Graduate Studies website. And if you go to Current Students tab, there's a link for doctoral students. And then everything you need, all the information you need, the checklist, the templates, contact information is here. So it's like, so we talked about in forms, there's a checklist.
Oh,
And
you've
then
got it up in the
all your
next
other
tab.
forms, and then for dissertation formatting guidelines and templates, you've got this page. The templates are here. It's a Word document template, and that's what we're talking about now. And then there's a checklist.
In the next tab, on the top. Like the tab.
I'm in downloadable forms and templates.
Up here.
Right, but where's the link
Oh,
to it?
oh, down and form, right there, pathways to the doctorate checklist.
Yes.
So those are all the backside of your degree with the forms you'll need to fill out, and it'll tell you, 8 weeks prior to graduation, as needed kind of thing. And if you have any questions about forms or any of that process, you would contact me.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, Michelle works in the College of Graduate Studies. She audits folks to make sure that they're going through their program
Yeah.
well. And I work in the library. My specialty is like publishing, and the library keeps an online copy of your work that I'll talk about more later. Okay, cool. I think we're all caught up. So let's see where we're going. Yeah, so you were talking about formatting. Here's the title page, copyright page.
This is all pretty self-explanatory. The general formatting guidelines need to be, 1-inch margins, 12-point font. You can't use bold or underline unless, well, you wouldn't because that's not pertainable to you, but so no special fonts, no being crazy artsy, unfortunately.
No calibri.
Yeah, I've actually had students submit all kinds of crazy stuff, and I'm like, oh, I think it looks amazing, but unfortunately, yeah. Yeah, so this is all pretty self-explanatory.
This is from the template. Abstract.
Yep, and it tells you, if either of you want the slides, you can just shoot me an email, and I will send you the slides so that you can just, for your reference, because there's a lot of good stuff in there too. If you have any specific questions though about formatting, you would ask me because, well, you could ask your committee first, but they're gonna refer you to me, unless it's content. Content is them only. Abstract, yep. These are optional, but as it's gonna be a published work, I don't know if I've seen any of it. Most people have these, I'll put it that way. Acknowledgements. Table of contents, this is an area where the template really comes in handy. For some reason, students have a lot of issue with table of contents, the spacing's off, or they'll try to bold or underline or whatever. So if you are plugged into the template, it's super easy, just kind of plug and go.
Yeah, the template has like, the table of contents will update automatically based on the content of your document. So if you've never used that feature of Word, it'll be something to,
Learning curve.
yeah, it'll be something to learn, but it's all set up, ready to go, so you don't have to set it up, so that's helpful. just so keep that in mind.
That's what it should look like.
Mhm. This is the same, this is what I was just talking about.
Yep, this is what he was just talking about, how to, you have to format the headings and subheadings, and then you just click where you want to add the table of contents, references tab, gives you all the instructions there. And there is a video, I think it's a couple years old, but it's still relevant there, so. Figures, like, yeah. So aligning the last number of the page number with the E in page, that's for some reason something, I think people try to freehand put dots in and stuff, and it just ends up,
Yeah, so, yeah, that's what we're talking about.
yeah, where it says page, the E, and then the numbers.
So it's automatically formatted that way, or do we have to actually?
Let's take a look at the template. So it is so what happens if you add something? I don't know, okay, so. Let's see, how would I do this? So it is, those periods will like,
Adjust automatically.
yes, so that's handy. What I did, I copied table 2, made it, and then made it the table 3 row. And then, but the trick is, don't erase that, if you erase that first dot, it erases all of them. Delete, so there you go, just delete the numbers. And then
Yeah,
add
it
in-
automatically formats.
And then add in the page where you need to be, where that table is. Okay, cool, that's good. Okay, list of figures. List of tables.
And it's the same thing,
Very
the
similar.
last number of the page number of the E in page.
Okay, list of appendices. Same. What happens if there's no, if you don't have appendices? Do you just do
You
a
just don't
blank
have
page?
that, yeah, no, there's no blank pages.
What about list of figures, list of tables, and there are no figures and tables?
Then you just wouldn't have them, but there would be a blank page.
Okay.
That's a good question, because a lot of students will leave a blank page and can't have blank pages, so if you don't have it, it's just not there.
Okay. So the submission guidelines, this is the part of the presentation that I take. So you submit your work to the grad school, and then through the submission interface, you enter into agreements with 2 entities to publish your work. So I'm going to show you, I think, so at the end of the day, your dissertation will be available in the Proquest thesis and dissertation platform, because we contract with Proquest to publish and put online, and the whole submission workflow is through Proquest. So from the library homepage, you can go to the database list and find like dissertations and theses, global full text. This is the Proquest database. And this is what it looks like. It looks like a database, a research database. And then you can search for institution. You can select add that, and so this way you can access all of the dissertations and theses written at Texas A&M University Corpus Christi. I say all, but it's like all the electronic ones. So they have some going back to 2002, but most of them are from 2012 on, which is when we accepted PDFs. We started accepting PDFs in 2012. It was optional, and around 2015 it became mandatory. that the way you all submit your work is as a PDF. So then primary access at the library used to be bound copies. We have from 19 whenever, 70, earlier even, 50.
Yeah.
From 1950 to 2012, we have bound copies downstairs on the shelves that circulate. And those are the public access copy at the library. Today, so Proquest is not public access. It's only accessible to people with subscriptions to Proquest. So we have a public access platform, the library does, to host another copy, a public access copy of your work. So that is in a website called the TAMUCC repository. A repository is a place where you collect stuff. So we collect theses and dissertations, we collect faculty works, and we collect library special collections. So if you see down here, it says TAMUCC theses and dissertations. And here you can search the dissertations or the theses, you can have access. So these are like from 2012 to present, everything that comes through is available here. So some students say, I don't want my work to be available on the internet right away because I'm working on a publication or I have a patent or some other reason. I want to delay the release of my work. There is options for you to do that, and I'll show you specifically when we look at the submission form. But what you can do is we call it an embargo. And so when you're submitting, you tell Proquest and you tell the library to either to delay release for 6 months, 12 months, 2 years. Those are your options, I think. And if you need it to be delayed more than 2 years, you have to talk to the graduate school and ask them for special permission, and then we'll talk about it.
So is this publication, is this part of the graduation requirements for us?
Yes.
Okay, 'cause I always thought it was like an option that we had to like publish our dissertations.
No, it's a requirement for graduation. And
Yeah.
actually, it's on that checklist, so that doctor checklist, this is kind of everything that you need, and it tells you final version submitted to Proquest 4 weeks prior to graduation. That would be cutting it really close, because when you, as I was telling earlier, once you submit it to me, that doesn't mean it automatically gets published, because we have to look at it for formatting and stuff, and there's a lot of little things that go back and forth, and it can be time consuming, so if you wait absolutely 4 weeks, then you're gonna be kind of crunched.
And you have to be done with this process, with the publication process, before you walk the stage before graduation?
So the stage is almost the theatrics of getting your
Yeah,
doctoral
for sure.
degree, so that really doesn't have anything to do with what we do.
Okay.
So no, you don't have to be finished. I deal with students after that. There is a hard deadline, but the commencement itself is not an end all. Because I don't award the degrees until a few weeks after that,
Yeah.
because I have to put all the packets together and make sure everything's there, so.
I do know that I have a colleague of mine that just graduated with curriculum instruction, I think. And he thought he was going to be done right when he just ended. And it was like weeks
Kind of
after
like-
that he was still editing and.
Yeah, and a lot of people are like, no, I've got it down, and I'm like, but there's a lot of formatting things that just, it's easier if you start with a template than if you try to open a blank Word document and piecemeal it, because those students usually have a lot of issues, a lot of little things that go back and forth. But these are all hard deadlines, so like, if for some reason you didn't submit, I actually go in and I'll have students on this 4 week date, we'll say, well, is it by 5 or do I have till midnight? Like they're trying to push it till the end. I'm like, well, as long as it's in by midnight, then, but it is a hard deadline because there's so much that has to happen after that.
So our proposal, Jennifer here is also in the same program that I'm in. So our proposal is the first 3 chapters of our dissertation. And so that's the stage where we're at in the next couple of months, we'll be proposing. But the template that they give us really is just it's just an outline, it's not an actual template of the document, it's just an outline of this is what you need to have in it. I'm thinking that I should just start with this template.
You could, or you'll have to merge.
I
them
would,
at some
I would
point.
start with this, because otherwise you're gonna have, you're gonna have to merge, and that's gonna, it's a lot more difficult. It's easier just to start with this template and get the learning curve out of the way and then build on it than to try to,
Yeah, yeah. I haven't done it myself, so I can't say. What's the, yes. Yes, so at the end of the day, you are publishing, it becomes, you are publishing your work.
which the other good side of that is this repository is an awesome tool if you have questions about something or you want to see how like a finished, something would look, different formatting styles, you can like look up, search keywords pertaining or pertinent to your program, and you can look at what other students have done, because these are all obviously have been all approved and processed and published, so.
Yeah, you can go and look at a finished one that's been approved. So this is the submission interface. It's at ETD admin, A-D-M-I-N, so ETD A-D-M-I-N. ETD stands for Electronic Theses and Dissertations. Admin is short for administrator. So there is a step-by-step guideline to using this submission form. I think it must be available on the website somewhere. It's a PowerPoint or a PDF of a PowerPoint. So basically, you create an account, you sign in, and then you start a submission. I have a submission that I've already started to show you what it would look like. So you don't have to do this all in one sitting. You can start a submission and then save it and then come back to it, and then when you're ready, you can submit it all to the grad school. So I'm going to continue. You'll see there's like a checklist on the left side of the screen, and then it's all the things you have to go through. So first you start out with instructions, and there's some good, not here, instructions, the good stuff. So you start out with instructions, and then you enter into a publication agreement with Proquest, and then you enter into a publication agreement with the library, and then you select you have an option to select a Creative Commons license for your work. So let's talk about your agreement with Proquest. I want to say one thing. As the author of your dissertation, you are the copyright owner of your work. You don't have to register your copyright to own copyright. Current copyright code states that as soon as you create a new work and fix it in some sort of concrete expression, like a document or a computer file, the creator has copyright as long as it's significantly original. Does that make sense? So it's like, okay. So then, as the copyright owner of this work, you're entering into agreements with publishers. You're saying, you're giving the publisher permission to take your work and do certain things with it. You will not, in your agreement with Proquest and your agreement with the library, you are not transferring your copyright, which is great for you as a creator. So you retain copyright in your work. You enter into non-exclusive agreements with the two publishers, the Proquest and the library. That's different than if you were going to publish your work in a journal. Oftentimes, you have to transfer your copyright to the publisher or negotiate what rights you retain. So I wouldn't call myself a copyright expert. I'm a copyright enthusiast or dabbler, or I know a little bit about it. So that's one of my jobs here on campus, is to help people think through copyright issues. So if you have any questions after this about your work and any part of your work and copyright, feel free to get in touch with me again. So with Proquest, you can view the agreement, the publication agreement. You have two options, a traditional publishing agreement or an open access publishing agreement. Are you familiar with the term open access and what it means? No? Open access means free to read and sometimes free to use. So that means it's like not behind a paywall. You have free access to it. So Proquest, the traditional publishing agreement will put your work behind the Proquest paywall. The open access publishing agreement with Proquest would put it within the Proquest system. It would make it open. That sounds great, but Proquest will charge you $90 to do that. So it's not a great deal because the library is putting up an open copy for free. So my advice, and that's all it is, you have to make these decisions yourself. My advice is to go with the traditional publishing agreement because even if open access is important to you, we'll provide open access in the library.
So in what situations are both of those options like beneficial?
Well, so you choose one or the other.
Yeah.
So the benefits of open access publishing is more people can read your work. So it makes it open. It makes it open to the public web rather than to only subscribers of Proquest. So it might be worth $90 to you, but if you want an open copy in Proquest. If you just want an open copy on the internet, the library will provide that for you. Okay? So then you choose one of these, and then you select some other options. Down here it says delaying release in Proquest. That's where you say if you need to, make this bigger so you can see it. It says, I want my work to be available in Proquest as soon as it is published. So that means no delay. So yes means no delay, no means please delay, 6 months, 1 year, 2 years, and then you give a reason. So these are some of the reasons that you might select. Publication pending with another publisher. So the idea is that a publisher will not publish material that's already been released to the public. A lot of publishers have that restriction to what they'll publish. They want to be, if they're publishing it, they want to be the first people to make it available. However, having said that, most publishers have a exception, that's the word. Have an exception for dissertation work because they understand that it's student work and that it is being made available by universities. So if you have a publisher in mind, you should check with them about whether or not you have to embargo your dissertation in order to be published. Patent pending, you don't want to give up your patent information, so that's another good reason. And there's other sensitive material. There's different reasons why you wouldn't release it right away. Most people release it within 2 years, even if they delay release. I haven't heard of anyone delaying release in perpetuity or anything like that yet. I'm sure there'll be a case. But after 2 years, it becomes case by case. So that is, once you get through with that, that's taking care of your Proquest relationship. And then where you make your options and then you sign the agreement. You say, yes, I agree to all of these terms. If you have any questions about these terms, hit me up. Feel free to hit me up. You accept or decline that agreement. Then you set your publishing options with the library. We call it the institutional repository. I told you about that word repository. So this is the TAMU-CC repository. It's the library website. Your options here are, do you want a delay in publishing or not? So that's really your only option. Otherwise, it's just going to go and be put online. You sign this agreement. It's a non-exclusive distribution license. You can read it. If you have any questions, let me know. This should be pretty straightforward. And then,
The fun stuff.
yeah, and then you have this option. This option is, so here I have another question for you. I asked you if you've heard of open access, and then none of you had heard of that. So now the next term is Creative Commons licenses. Have you heard of that? We have one person who's heard. What have you heard about Creative Commons licenses?
I've heard of it. I don't know much about it except that when I'm using like images and stuff, it comes up under a different category, and those are free for anyone to use for any reason.
Yes.
And then the others have more restrictions on them.
Yeah, you should pull up an image and.
Yeah. Do you want to see? So this is great. I'm really glad you brought up that example. So it's like if you go to Google in Flickr, a lot of the are you guys aware of Flickr? You guys know what Flickr is? In Flickr, a lot of the images are put up with Creative Commons licenses, and it allows for reuse without permission. So even Google.com, did I search for ponies? Were you here when I searched
Yes,
for ponies?
it was ponies, and then you held your breath.
Yeah. So, if I search for images of ponies, I can go up to tools here and say usage rights. And there's different usage rights. It says the first one is not filtered by license, and that's the default. But if you can say labeled for reuse. Labeled for reuse with modification, labeled for non-commercial reuse with modification. So these are different levels of reuse, different restrictions. And what these represent are different Creative Commons licenses that have been applied to the thing that we're talking about. In this case, it's pictures of ponies. So I can say which pictures of ponies are labeled for reuse, that I can reuse in my work, where I can redistribute, I can put it on my website, I can put it on my PowerPoint, I can print in my book without asking permission. And then we get this list here. A lot of these are going to be in Wikipedia, because to be included in Wikipedia, it has to be an open image. So I can take a look at one of these images, and hopefully it'll show, yeah, so in the metadata, in the information about this picture, it was put up by this user. It's this user's own work, so they're the copyright holder. They put it on the internet, and they attached a Creative Commons by-SA license. By, it means like by Thomas, by Frank, by Cindy. It's you need to attribute who made the work. And then SA means share alike. That means if you create a new work with this work, you have to make it open too. So there's all these different combinations, and it's what it does. It's like it says I'm the copyright holder of a work. I'm going to put it on the internet, or I'm going to publish it. I'm going to release it into the world. I want other people to use it, to be able to maybe put it in a course pack, use it for data mining. These are different uses that like an academic might use a dissertation for. So if you want other people to use your dissertation, you can release it with a Creative Commons license. So then when that person who wants to use your work finds it, they know what they can and cannot do with it. They don't have to call you and ask you for your permission. So it's like a way to give your permission plus any restrictions you want to place on that permission up front in a way that Google will know what your desire is, and anyone who finds it will know what your desire is because there's a license attached to it. I'll show you examples in the repository so you can see what it looks like on a thesis or a dissertation. I just had to... One of these. This one, okay. I've got a couple of examples here. 56, 30. Or actually, let's look here. So this is back to the submission form. You can choose one of these licenses. This is the most permissive. This means like you can do anything with the creative work as long as you cite attribution, as long as you give credit to the creator. The most restrictive is this one, attribution, non-commercial, no derivatives. That means you can share the work, but you can't change it and you can't sell it. You can't make any money off of it. And attribution non-commercial means you can share the work, you can change the work, but you can't sell the work. And if you do any of those things, you're required to give attribution to the creator. All of these licenses require attribution, which is in line with academia, where we credit our sources in our papers and stuff.
So I have a question.
Yes, please.
What does this look like in terms of, like, could you give me an example?
Yes, that's
of
where-
how somebody might commercialize or
Oh,
whatever
sure.
a dissertation?
Sure, yeah, so if the dissertation text was open and like had a CC license on it, and it was just attribution, someone could take the work, could take 100 open dissertations, and then create a book and sell the book.
Okay.
On Amazon.
Or they could build on what you've already done. If you've come up with a new counseling theory or a theory to approach fourth graders or something like that, they could take your basic research and build on it.
So that's a little bit different, because what we're talking about is like the text
Okay.
of the work, not the ideas. Ideas are not copyrightable. That's the way, but the text is. So someone can't reproduce your text, but they can take your idea and run with it and create new text about it.
Well, they just can't, well, I meant more the research findings and stuff that they would maybe put in text, no?
So if they were reproducing the findings or the figures, or saying like, if they're copying a piece, because copyright, the word copy is in copyright. So if they're taking a portion or the whole of the work and reproducing it or doing other things with it, yes, that's the way. Yes, that's true. But yeah, there's a distinction between like the work and like the idea behind it. Sorry,
No, that's okay.
it's just, it gets weird quick, like
That's your
copyright.
wheelhouse, so you're the expert.
So how might they change it?
So, can you say, so you're worried about them changing it? So a derivative work, it means, yeah, you can take it and manipulate it. So if you're worried about someone, like if you don't want someone to change your work, you wouldn't want to give permission. You would want to restrict that use. And you can restrict that use by selecting a license that requires no derivatives. It restricts changes. So like attribution no derivatives means you can reproduce the work, you can perform the work, you can share the work, you can sell the work, but you can't change the work. So let's take a look at the repository. So this is the library website. This is a thesis or dissertation. I think it's a thesis. And it's released under a Creative Commons by non-commercial, no derivatives license. So it comes with this handy button, and if we click the button, the Creative Commons license will open, and it'll say, so this basically says the item that you were looking at has been released under this license. You are free to share, copy, and redistribute the material in any medium and format. The licensor cannot revoke these freedoms as long as you follow the license under the following terms. And these are the restrictions. You must give appropriate credit. You may not use the material for commercial purposes. And the changing part, you may not, no derivatives. If you remix, transform, or build upon the material, you may not distribute the modified material. It's like you can't change it. So, this is the way this works. I mean, if this is, let's,
I'm having a hard time picturing it for like my work, but I could see it in other fields, like for example, theater or something like that, you know, somebody wanting to do another play based on this play or something like that.
Yes, so like, I see what you're saying, like why would someone want to change your work? That's the question? Yeah, see like, I'm not sure, I can't say. It's like I guess I don't have examples of everything, of every hypothetical, like what does it look like? Like what down the line, what does it look like? I'm not sure, but I do know that putting a Creative Commons license on it up front allows for downstream uses, which may or may not be important to you. This is optional. This part of the submission process is optional. So the first option you have is no thank you. I'm not interested in capturing a Creative Commons license as part of the submission. So in that case, that means if you don't explicitly say what permissions you're granting through a Creative Commons license, you're effectively saying all rights reserved. I'm the copyright owner. I do not give any permission. And if you want to use my work, you have to come and ask me. And that's all rights reserved. That's like the traditional way to do it. And then this is the open way to do it, by adding an open license and putting it up on an open website. That's it in a nutshell.
What if we want to expand our own work later down the road?
Since you're the copyright holder, you can do whatever you want with that work.
And that's different with like if we go through like a journal or something. That's
So-
I understand that copyright concept.
So when you publish in a journal, one of the steps on publication is a publication agreement, and it's a contract that you sign with the journal, and it will. A lot of times there's a copyright transfer in that agreement, and it'll say, you know, let's say the author transfers copyright to the publisher, except notwithstanding the following uses, you know, and then that document will outline who owns the copyright now, and then like as the creator, what rights do you retain? Because copyright is a bundle of rights. So you can say, you can sell off some of the rights and retain some of the rights. Does that make sense? Yeah. And then if you want to go into that deeper, like we can sit down and look at some publication agreements at for journals that you use. That would be the next step I would suggest. Okay, so that's the hard stuff. That's all the decisions you have to make. From here on, it's not that bad. You have to just give your contact information, and then about my thesis or dissertation. You give details about your dissertation, like the title, the abstract. So let me show you over here. Like all of that information is available on the library website. So you know, anyone who finds your work on the library website will know all about it, because they'll have the author, they'll have the title, they'll have the subjects, they'll have the abstract, etc. So you include that information here. Then you upload the PDF. Usually there are no supplemental files, but if you have extra files to go with your PDF, and you probably don't. That's something between you and your program, depending on how they do it. But I don't think.
Yeah, I've never seen it, but
Okay.
that would be a check with your committee thing.
Okay, yeah, so that's probably not an issue. And then the last section is submission and payment. The first thing, this is Proquest again. They're going to say, at Proquest, we can register your copyright with the US government. Years ago, you would have to register your copyright in order for it to be on the books, in order for you to have the copyright. Like I said before, currently that's no longer the case. You have copyright, however, you can still register that copyright with the government, and it comes with some benefits, particularly if you go to court, you're eligible for more damages, or in court fees, basically. If you take someone to court who has infringed on your copyright. Other than that, there's no real benefit to registering your copyright. Proquest is going to ask for $55 to do the work. If you do want to register your copyright, you can pay Proquest $55, or you can fill out the form yourself for free. So those are your options there. Don't register your copyright with Proquest, or register your copyright yourself. And then you order copies. There is, okay, so this is what the copies look like. This is like this is the library copy. Actually, I don't know what these look like. I assume these look similar. But this is the library copy. You're required to order one copy for the library for $43. On behalf of the library, I apologize, but we're sticking you with the.
But he just taught you how to say 55 by finding your copyright, so.
Yeah, right, so it's 43. So this is great. I mean, it's great because we will always have a copy in the library. When the internet, when the apocalypse happens and the internet goes down,
Your work will still be here.
you can, you can make the trip from wherever you are and come read your thesis. We'll have a copy in special collections, and it'll be secure into the future. If you want, so this is part of your order, and I'm trying to think what other. So this is part of your order. And then you can, and this will be sent directly to the grad school.
It gets sent to my office.
Anything else you order will be sent to you. And so those are personal copies. If your committee wants a copy, you're required to order one through this. Like the way to get your committee a copy is to order one, receive the copy, and then give it to your committee members.
Another good kind of part of the $43, though it doesn't seem like it, is so those get sent to my office and I open them and review them, and I've had several times where formatting issues in publication. If there's been issues, there'll be like white pages or like diagram will be half missing, whatever, and so I can catch it, send it back, and then they'll,
So you can make some changes and have them reproduce it.
yeah.
That's good.
If it's a publishing thing, not if
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
our error. Yeah.
Okay, I can't see that. I think that's, so I'm gonna go back, so that's pretty much it over here. I'm trying to think if there's any other charges, or is it just the charge for the books you order here? Because I know there's another charge for graduation fees, but that's.
Right, so on that doctorate checklist, up kind of at the top in the center there, dissertation processing fee. Is that a link underneath it?
Dissertation processing fee, yes. It just goes to the,
Right there, down a little, pay dissertation processing fee. So there is this as well.
okay, so this is something separate,
Yes.
it's not when you submit, it's something separate. So you have to pay the grad school like $100 or something.
You have to pay TMUCC. Yeah,
And then you have to pay Proquest $43
and
for
that's all
that,
part of it, yeah.
for that ETD, and then plus whatever else you order. Okay, I want to go back to the PowerPoint because there's more information there. Okay. So this is just all what we talked about. Distribution. Oh, here's.
Here, yeah.
So yeah, here's a rundown. Here's that $43. Dissertation processing fee $100. You pay online, and then these are the two that I advise against. Open copyright fee, copyright registration fee, and open access publishing fee. These are two things that Proquest options. Is that okay? So are there any questions about this? Okay. And then, so yeah, we looked at this. Should I pay every submission? Okay, so once you've completed that submission, you're going to say submit, and it's going to go, I think, to Michelle.
It comes to me, and then I look at it for formatting, and like I said, I don't know if I said it when you were in the room, but once my office has it, once you submit it, if you want to make changes, just send me an email, and I'll kick it out to you. So I'll just say minor revisions required, and I'll kick it out, and then you can change it, resubmit it. So my office looks at it for just formatting stuff, and we'll go back and forth until it's perfect. And then, yeah, secondary review, that's if we need it. Verification of all checklist requirements, which is that Pathways to Doctorate checklist. We make sure all those are submitted, and then you'll get emails. When I write to you, hey, you've got, too much space at the top of your page or whatever, the email will come from Proquest. I'm writing it as an administrator, but it goes through Proquest. So everything will go through, back and forth through Proquest. Unless there's a lot.
So, and when you say Proquest, it's all through the ETD admin site,
Yeah.
right?
So you'll get an
Which is-
email
yeah.
say.
Is that where we were just at?
Yes, that's
Yeah.
that's the site I was just showing you. So like once you submit it, you can log back in here and check your submissions and check the status and things like that.
And then I go in and I register a decision, and the options for me are minor revisions required, and I will very detailed, or one of my assistants will very detailed explain what revisions are required. Major revisions required, you know, if you do it in all italics, and all that, or, and then but one thing to know is before I can send your dissertation to publishing, that checklist has to be completed. So if I'm missing like
Oh, the checklist that the,
the pathways to doctorate checklist,
okay, from
So-
the university.
right, so actually inside Proquest, I have to go in and manually, it'll tell me, you know, Form A, Form B, and I have to check that all that's done before I can submit this for publishing.
So this whole thing has to be completed.
Well, and like I said, the whole center section is kind of as needed, but yeah. And if you have any questions about this, please email me.
So my next question is, when in the whole process do people start approaching you for formatting? Is it like after they defend their dissertation? I mean, because we're given the whole timeline in terms of like our departments and our committees.
It's a lot, right?
So now it's kind of like adding the university requirement.
Your
on
committee
that,
though,
which is-
my experience is that most committees only look at content.
Okay.
So I've gotten things that are very obviously have formatting revisions required, because the committee says, well, no, we just do content, that's grad college, we'll do the formatting.
Okay.
So once your content is okay and your committee's giving you what they want as far as revisions content-wise, then you can get with me and format it.
And I think I would say that like, whenever you have any questions about it, you can ask, like, you don't have to be a certain way through your, if you have a formatting question.
I mean, because if we're working off of the template.
Yeah,
like,
if
why
you have any
not
questions about
wait?
the template, I think it's better to ask earlier,
Okay.
like
Yeah,
with
just-
things like that.
Absolutely.
Yeah, because,
And
yeah,
we would contact you.
Mhm.
yeah.
It's good to know, 'cause, yeah, it seems like.
Because you don't want to do something wrong, like, all along, and then have
And
to,
then I-
and
and
have
I
to go
think-
back and fix it.
At the time of, like, when we're towards the end, it just kind of seems like we're already fatigued from having done all this work. It's like,
Yeah.
you know, and to me, this is a really important piece, so we should be spending good energy trying to format it the right way.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and it's, I mean, this is you, you know? This is all your work,
Your
all your
final
whole
product.
pathway, all your research and everything.
Yeah, and then at the end, you'll have that link. Like, I would suggest, like, finding, you know, at a certain point, find your work on the library website, so you can link to it, you know, in your CV and whatnot. You can link to the version in Proquest, and you can link to the version on the library website.
So there's like, so this is formatting of the actual document,
Mhm.
right, what we're
Yes.
talking about?
Yeah, so we're talking, yeah, so like the PDF that's gonna be on the website is formatted with the template. That makes sense? That makes sense, yeah.
Yes.
So, yeah, so this is what all of the works look like, basically. So you've got your title page. This is a master's thesis, so it might be a little bit different than a dissertation.
Yeah.
You know, copyright page, committee page, abstract. Abstract starts your first page number is 5. And then table of contents, et cetera,
And
listed
that's all
figures.
on the College of
Yeah.
Graduate Studies webpage,
Yeah.
website, so you can, you know, pull it up and go from there.
I think, is that it?
Are you guys gonna be offering another of these workshops throughout
Yeah.
the fall semesters?
We offer them every semester, but I wouldn't recommend coming to another one. I would recommend if you want, you can call my office and make an appointment, I can sit down with you and we can,
Or, I mean, because we have a cohort.
if you have a couple, I have a conference room. We can, I'm in the faculty center over across from Starbucks. So if you have a couple, you want to get together and actually kind of one-on-one. And Ed does the same thing if you want to sit down with him and go over stuff
Yeah.
and give him like what you're doing, and he can help you there too.
Yeah.
We're both really
So I
open
just
to
sat,
that.
I just sat down with a student last week, and I'm meeting one, Michelle and I are meeting with one this week, and we're going to talk about the publishing side of it. Because the students want to submit to a journal, so we just have to, yeah. So any questions about copyright or publishing, come talk to me. Any questions about forms and formats and everything else, you can talk to the grad school, yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, I wouldn't come in, I would just, get with me. We can put it up on the big screen in the conference room and go through it.
Yeah. So that's it. This is just, the last bit is about the checklist, but we've already talked about
Yeah.
the checklist. Do you guys have any questions?
Thank you.
Is this PowerPoint available?
If you shoot me an email if you want it, and I'll send it to you. I just want an email or call. Yeah. So if anybody has any questions, we're both available.
Thank you all so much.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
No
thanks for
problem. Good
coming.
luck.
Thank you.
Have a good
I'll be
fourth.
here.
Believe it. Yeah.
Have a good holiday.
Okay, yes, you too.
Bye.
Bye, thank you.